Cheers, everybody. It is Monday, August 11th. It's the 12th. I wrote down 11th on this doc. It's the 12th. It's Monday. It's August 12th. It's in the morning. This is your Cup of Jones. This is your regular Cup of Jones. No coffee in the mug today. Just got water in the mug today. Skipping breakfast. Going straight into Cup of Jones. So we're going to still try to make this episode quick, even though this is a full episode of Cup of Jones. All business questions, all personal questions, even an editorial, all live, all right now. This is going to be a short one of a long one, is the goal for today. Cheers, everybody. I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. This Cup of Jones will be my breakfast. This juicy Easy Allies news is what I will feast on today. Shout out to Amanda Troop taking care of Milo while I'm doing live Cup of Jones. You might hear him squealing every now and then. Milo is my son. I don't have like a pig here or something like that. If you've been away from Easy Allies or Cup of Jones for a while. So the first question of business questions today is from Yui, who says, is Cup changing to Phase 4? Cup will be changing in Phase 4. The next episode of Cup will be a little different from this episode. And I actually want to get your feedback because I have ideas based on the survey information that we have, based on all of your comments for years and years now on Cup of Jones. Feedback just generally in terms of how I've seen the show evolve, how the show is easy for me to produce, and so I want to make it as streamlined as possible. And feedback just from the last couple weeks of doing text that was very interesting, of splitting up the show a little bit and having a shorter, more focused episode of Cup of Jones. I think Cup should probably be that before anything. I think it's nice to have fun editorials. It's nice for me to go on a rant every now and then. It's nice to answer personal questions about musical theater or, potentially political stuff. But at the same time, the show definitely should serve our community, should serve a lot of new people that we want to come into this Patreon that watch. Every episode of Cup of Jones is potentially somebody's first episode. And so I think it would be interesting to have it actually be way more focused as a whole on Easy Allies and on the business, and then maybe have that personal stuff kind of outside of the episode potentially somehow. So there are many different ways to go, and I'm curious to get your feedback if you care to for next week's episode. There is the possibility of doing personal questions the way we normally do personal questions, have it at the end of the episode, or we could potentially not do personal questions anymore. I'm curious how many people have a take on that. Or maybe I can just not answer everyone's personal questions and then maybe just do personal questions in text on the actual post when I throw it up. So that might kind of be fun of like, hey, it was a crazy business week. Here's a little Q&A on me if you want to know more about me. That'll just be in the text post of just like, what's your favorite color, blah, blah, blah. And then if anything is big enough that I want to talk about it at length in the live episode, I'll do an editorial on that. So an editorial might be geared toward the business, or it might be something personal just from me. And then that would keep the episode shorter. That would keep them more focused if the personal questions were happening somewhere outside of the episode itself. But if you could also get creative on maybe how we do that, that was just the only thing that there are definitely some changes I would like to make on Cup of Jones. One of them is being, I think it's time, now that we move into Phase 4, I think it's time to just be very judicious, I guess, with the questions that I choose to answer. So I think I've been going mostly with 100 percentile question answering. Generally had a question mark on it. Sometimes people would leave comments and I wouldn't, reply to those. I'll sometimes favorite them with a little heart on Patreon. But if there was a question, generally I would answer it, even if sometimes it had been asked many, many times before. I think I'm going to start being much more careful about not only the questions that I pick, the parts of it that I read. Sometimes if people will write like a 2-page thing, I'll read all 2 pages of it, but I might just kind of generalize some of the statements moving forward. Keep it more focused on the answer given than the question asked. So if like many people ask the same question, I'll maybe bunch them together, reorganize things. I generally tend to read questions chronologically, and I think I'll organize them a little bit more beforehand. Just all in the effort to make this show quick, to make this show about, he says, having just rambled on for about 8 minutes now, to make this show more focused on what is happening with the business of the company. Skipping straight into questions, or is this just a jumping off point? Yeah, this is just the intro. Sorry, see, even Blood is confused. It's our first business question, but it's... I wanted to talk about this before talking about obviously other changes that are coming to the business. Speaking of, tomorrow night is the beginning of Phase 4, which won't really kick in officially until the following week. We're going to go through details of a bunch of fun changes that are coming to our YouTube page, coming to our Twitch channel, coming to our Patreon, coming to everything associated with Easy Allies. Some things and, a lot of things are going to, keep sailing on pretty much exactly the same as they did before. But we viewed this as a good opportunity to take feedback from our community, look at our business, look at the last 3 years of operation, and figure out if there's any things that should be done differently, that we want to do differently, things maybe that we want to experiment with. And we realize that with a lot of things changes, with some things potentially going away, that means there should be a lot of new things to enjoy as well. And so it is a grab bag of all of those different things. And I saw people kind of chatting about it before in the comments, and obviously I've seen a lot of sentiment in forums and in social media, and everybody nervous that some things that they enjoy will go away, and nervous about things that new things that will be coming in. I think wherever you are among Easy Allies, among our community, I think there will at least be one thing that you will be bummed about and one thing that you will be happy about. Bummed basically meaning like, oh, that's unfortunate, I liked that show, or I wish they would do more of that thing, but I'm curious about this other new thing that's coming up. And what kills me about Phase 4 tomorrow is there were a lot of ideas thrown out, not only in the two huge meetings that we've had planning for this day, but obviously in the many days, the weeks leading up to it, and obviously the many days in between these meetings. And there were a lot of ideas we actually aren't developed enough to talk about, but that will be happening, some before the end of 2019 and some in 2020. And those are super cool too, and I would love to talk about those. And so keep in mind that some stuff going away, with new stuff coming in, some of those new things that are coming in, we won't realize until, for a while. So, but that will be still a very fun announcement. Shout out to all of the allies that have been taking care of me since I've been on paternity leave. Shout out to all of them for organizing a lot of this stuff, organizing all of the thoughts, preparing all of our comments and updates and announcements for tomorrow night. And I was so zoned out. I was so out of it last week when we talked about just a quick business update. Didn't talk about Busted Trifecta at all, which wrapped up. Congrats to Dawn for finishing episode 7 of Busted Trifecta, thus completing the saga. And it is now over an hour. I think it is 2 hours and 3 minutes, 123 minutes. It's basically feature length. So if you want to enjoy a feature film about all of the allies in Dawn's, horse racing imagination, you can check that out. Not only episode 7, which you can watch on its own if you've seen all the episodes up to this point, but if you want to watch everything, and Ian and Dawn watched all of that and streamed all of that. So kudos to them for sending off Busted Trifecta with a bang. I have yet to watch episode 7. I kind of want to watch the entire thing all the way through, and I have yet to make time to do that. So that is about how much entertainment time I have per day. It's about the length of all of the Busted Trifecta episodes. Community Showcase was last week too. Shout out to everybody that showed up for that, and especially Michael Damiani and Daniel Bloodworth. It's at hour 20. Nice. Damiani, who was hosting the show in my absence, and Daniel Bloodworth, who was on the show for the month of August. Thanks to everybody for sending that stuff in. I think the post went up a little bit later than it usually does, and I watched last month's Community Showcase. I have not watched this month's Community Showcase. I got a lot of Easy Allies, like many of you. I have a lot of Easy Allies to catch up on. I definitely sympathize with people who try to watch all of our stuff, at least the stuff that is definitely relevant to my interests, for my job and for Cup of Jones. But that was 2 community showcases that I missed. I will be back. I'm planning to be back, scheduled to be back in the month of September. I'll be sitting down with Mr. Michael Huber, and I believe that is the first Thursday of the month. I'm not sure exactly what date that is, but I'll be back in the showcase next month. I asked what we should do about personal questions. I say Cup is going to be changing next week. Phase 4 announcement tomorrow. I'm not going to talk about it really at all today. I'll be making changes also to Trailer Jones, and I wanted to have an episode done by tomorrow. I should have an episode done this week. I'm waiting on a lot of the stuff for that episode has been recorded. It's just that I'm changing up the graphics a little bit for Trailer Jones, so I'm finalizing a lot of that stuff. Don't want to rush it, especially when I don't have to. The trailers that we're talking about are old trailers, so it's not like there's any biting news that you definitely got to get to. But Trailer Jones will be new this week. Cup of Jones will be new next week. New. Lots of new stuff. Moving into business questions. Cheers, everybody. Kyle told us there would be leaks here. Well, we're still early in the episode. You never know. See if you can throw me off in chat. See if any of these questions are specifically designed. I know one of them asks for information. Let's see if I don't like forget. I give a bunch of information and then I'm like, okay, next question. Oh, wait, I wasn't supposed to do that. Andy Gorgon. I know that the Phase 4 announcement is coming on Tuesday, but will you be taking a more long-form approach to responding to the surveys on Cup of Jones? Yeah, I will. Well, I'm going to go into kind of my take on all of the changes that we're doing next week. We'll go through all of them bit by bit before we get into business questions at the top of the show. It'll probably take a while. And I will talk about my analysis of why all of this stuff is happening and obviously more into detail of the changes coming to Cup of Jones and Trailer Jones and stuff I am directly working on. But I don't know how much detail I'm going to go into more on the survey. I did scan the survey. I didn't go through the survey as much as other allies, namely like Damiani and Bossman and Bloodworth. So when we had the meeting, I had a rough idea. I did word searches. Like, I'm definitely aware of what people think of Trailer Jones and Cup of Jones. But there were other allies that went through that in much more detail. Spoiler mode should be shooting tomorrow if all goes well. Thank you, Bloodworth. Nice. Bloodworth will be healed too, so maybe he can go into more detail if I do not. So I'll be going into more detail in terms of Phase 4 changes, but I might not be bringing up a lot of like crazy information that was on our Patreon survey that is not reflected in the changes that we're making to EZA. Matt Brookbank, wait a second. You're going to go through all of your Patreon changes on your Twitch group night stream? Shouldn't your Patreon changes be broadcast to your Patreon audience? Unless you're making these changes to try and reel in unpatroned members of the Twitch audience, I know there is definitely overlap, but I hope you'll consider your audience who have jobs or a time zone that prevent live Twitch viewing. The updates to Easy Allies via Phase 4 will be announced on Twitch on our group stream tomorrow night, 6 p.m. Pacific time. We will play a game after that, after our announcement is done. And then that video will either be put up in its entirety or cut down and put up on YouTube, so our YouTube audience can get all of the updates. And then almost immediately, if not shortly, before the very end of all of the announcements that we are making on our Twitch channel, we'll be putting up a already written and very detailed Patreon post provided to us lovingly by Mr. Daniel Bloodworth, who's a very good writer. And that goes into the perfect amount of polished detail of all of the changes coming. So actually probably the best worded update on what is happening to Easy Allies will come to Patreon and will be immediately once those things are announced on Twitch tomorrow night. How long is this announcement going to be? Probably half an hour. Half an hour to an hour. I don't know. Tough to say, but it will go well, and you will enjoy it. Joey Din. So that E3 link thing happened. Well, that sucks. Thoughts and opinions? Are you guys doing anything different to protect yourself from trolls and harassers? Still planning to do an E3 next year, knowing this leak happened? Definitely doing E3 next year. It does suck. Not talking. If we're doing stuff, we're not going to talk about it, because if you increase security, you don't talk about your security. And if we even did that, and yeah, we were affected by it, and it sucks. That's basically all we're saying. So apologies if anybody asks about that, if they're expecting long editorials about that leak and all of that crappy ESA stuff. Not talking about it. Beyond that, Brandon K. Gann, in the event you can't give your thoughts about the ESA debacle from the start of this month in the podcast, may I ask your take on the situation? Even if it's a simple no comment? No comment. I asked via love and respect if EZA was affected. I didn't see any official statement anywhere. I'm very concerned for you all. Again, if you look deadpan into the camera, say no comment. Move on to the next patron. Thank you very much for reading. Yeah, it's just not a thing you talk about. When people's security is involved, you don't talk about how their security was breached and go into specifics and call attention to it. And it's just not something you talk about. Me or Mahi? Mahi123. I just want to comment on the length of Cup of Jones. I very much enjoy the length of the show and the amount of consideration to each question. Is it possible to just cut the first 15 minutes or just your casual update before the question portion, then have a second part of the video for your questions and editorial? If you're worried about the email spam, you can also do a Ben did for the recent frame trap and add the URL to the question portion in the Patreon post. Do you think it's possible, or is there a drawback to this? Kristen jumped in with a suggestion when adding timestamps help, which I do add to the audio version. I haven't been recently because the episodes have been extremely short, but I usually do that to the audio version. Maybe I can go back. I might be doing that, wink wink, in future episodes because the format of Cup is changing a little bit to where I might be able to add time code. Obviously not when the Patreon post goes live because the show hasn't happened yet, but once I add the time code to the audio version, the time code will then, which it isn't now, be the same as the time code for the video version. So maybe I can go back to the video version and add time code. I always forget to add the video link to the post as well. always forget to do that. Sorry. I'm also using a new microphone. So I'm curious, sorry to just throw that in here, but this was the microphone I previously used for Review VO, and I'm using Amanda's microphone in the booth now, a very, very fancy microphone for Review VO. If you haven't noticed, hopefully it will sound better. And this is a USB microphone like the other one, so I don't know if it was like my PC inherently that was causing all the USB audio to get all warped. But yay, let us know if it sounds okay. Mostly after the fact, because a lot of people, specifically my headphone lovers that listen to the audio version, will be like, wait a minute, there's some weird clicking thing in the background. But yeah, just know that even though there will be a new quote-unquote format to Cup of Jones, hopefully in a week, if not the week after, I'm still going to experiment. I'm still going to tweak this show a little bit to try to get it quick, to try to get it to be a well-oiled machine. Hopefully maybe about an hour, I think would just be really great in terms of like getting a quick update to stuff that's happening in the company. But this episode ain't it, so hey, let's just drag this thing out. Just kidding. RRice64, Love and Respect seems to go beyond a Kyle bit in particular when it comes to not shunning sponsors on the podcast that gift their sponsorship to a charitable cause. The fact that you guys so effortlessly plug charities that others put forth got me wondering, why not use Easy Livin's 50-hour stream to do some sort of charity drive? I feel like the effects would be twofold. One, you'd obviously mobilize your current Easy A fans, patrons, Twitch viewers to donate to a good cause, but two, I feel like a move like that would get more eyes on the product in general as word starts to spread about the charity stream, articles get written, Reddit posts get made, Twitch viewership climbs, Patreon numbers go up, etc. Whew. Using what you're already doing, Easy Livin', as a way to help others and to grow yourself seems like a good idea to me, but as this isn't the most unique idea, I'm sure it's been thought of on your side and for one reason or another denied. If that's the case, how come? And if you hadn't considered this, do you think it's something to consider for future Easy Livins or separate marathon streams event if need be? Yeah, I guess it's just kind of piling too much fixins onto your bratwurst. I don't know. But if you do an event, a lot of times when we do an event, people are like, you should make this part of the event too. And we're like, oh, okay, cool. And we add that. It's like, then you should do that. And it's like, wait a minute. Like, we created that event to be one specific thing. What you're talking about should be its own separate stream. Should be I don't know about 50 hours, but should be a 12, 24 hour charity stream. We've done those in the past. We will do those again in the future. So yeah, that's not saying that Easy Livin' can't become a charity event in the future. It just wasn't created for that. Like, the main idea of Easy Livin' was, and I know it was confusing for some people that when they're like, you have a studio now, why are you getting the beach house? To live together, the live-in part of Easy Livin', to get a beach house and hopefully be relaxed for the weekend, enjoy, getting out, going to the beach, going to an area that maybe the allies wouldn't spend a lot of time in. I don't know if you can tell, but we don't get a lot of sun here at Easy Allies, even though we are in California. So if we were to do a charity thing, I'd want to play like Magic the Gathering or like, Pokemon card game or something where not like the game that we're playing and the charity that we're doing and the time and everything around it is surrounding a charity. It's not like you would just kind of lump that into it. But I do think of that. And I think almost every Easy Livin' that's been going on, I've been like, oh, we could be raising money for somebody right now. But that is something that we can do. That's something that we like to do at least once a year. Ain't no way we sleeping in that studio, says Bloodworth in chat. Ibrahim Sozer, I have a suggestion about incorporating Twitch and Patreon. You could create a chat room with the Twitch media player in www.easyallies.com/chat, which could allow patrons to use Twitch emotes, etc. I really believe the community is divided. You're doing a Patreon stream on Twitch, not linked to the Patreon. Blood replies, basically meaning the Phase 4 announcement. Blood says, without specifically going through our contract, I think it's safe to say Twitch would not be a fan of that. Regarding the announcement, see my response above. This is not a Patreon announcement. This is an Easy Allies announcement. Yeah, we are, changes will come to the Patreon, but again, changes are coming. If you only go to youtube.com/easyallies, you will notice something has changed. If you only go to Patreon, if you just watch Cup of Jones, if you just follow us on streams, well, no matter where you follow us at Easy Allies, you will notice that something happened. So it's just when we do it live, when we are there for the group stream, we are all there on camera. We are all unified in that message. It also clarifies that if chat brings up anything, if there's any questions, I'm going to be doing a lot of talking. Kyle's going to be doing a lot of talking. Blood's going to be doing a lot of talking. If we mess up any of that messaging, the other allies are there to be like, wait, no. Hold on a second. That actually has changed, or that has evolved, or we have the show creator right here live and they can talk about it. So it's just the cleanest and most coziest way to do announcements. But then you get that information everywhere else as soon as possible. Daniel Garza Andrade. One thing that came to mind is to monitor the stream. Why don't you open the Twitch app on any of your phones and check the sound quality? I do that on my job a lot when there are town halls or conferences. Open the call of the video conference and check everything for other people instead of waiting for everyone yelling and spamming the issues that you may have, for example. Damiani and Ian could do that in the first 5 minutes of the stream and leave the stream open on a phone or laptop to do a quick fix if in the middle of the stream, if it starts buckling. Yeah, I'll bring this up to Damiani. He's got that massive iPhone. So I know he's got, if he spent enough to get the iPhone, he's got those earbuds. Yeah, I think one of the issues with us in streams and shows, in terms of just technically getting all of the kinks ironed out when we first start the show, is we are a part of the show. And so in a lot of instances, we don't have, even Ian being on the podcast is still, vocally a part of the podcast. Even Damiani in the behind the streams is still involved in the streams when we first start them. And so I think that's where practices like that haven't become a thing, because we are all very much a part of the entertainment. But Mushworks is back. Welcome back, Mushworks. It's in takeaways. I will throw that at Damiani. Right before I burp. Ulf himself. In a previous Cup of Jones, somebody mentioned making Design Lab. Can you tell that the pace hopefully is a little bit quicker for Cup of Jones? Can you tell? I'm trying. It mentioned making Design Lab a limited run Patreon exclusive show, which I think would be an awesome idea. Each episode would be a different game you design stuff in, and patrons could submit ideas for the mid-episode game changer. Thank you for that lovely Design Lab suggestion. I will let Don Casanova know about it. Alexander Zirianov. Easy Live in 2019 was great, and you weren't missed in a good way. This got me thinking. You once dreamed of doing Easy Allies camping trip, only to be denied by Kyle. It would definitely be called something different than the Easy Allies camping trip, Zirianov. Well, what if Kyle stays home and you go to explore nature with the rest of the allies? I'm sure it will also be great. Also, Kyle can later record his reaction to your camping trip video, like he did with Pokemon Sword and Shield announcement direct. The last time I checked in with the allies about camping, they weren't too opposed. And when I think about it, I think Joshua Tree is a great option, because you can drive straight to the campsite. There's no hiking involved. It's in the desert. And so it will be cold, which is funny. But that way we can just get like 2 cars, pack everybody in, pack up all of our stuff, go there for one night, leave in the morning, get there, be there that night, get up in the morning, shoot some fun stuff the next morning, and then take off and be back the next day. And we can drive straight there. So again, we don't have to like park somewhere and then hike to the campsite. It'll again be pretty exposed. It'll be more of like a desert environment than a forest environment. But I think that's, as long as they can just put up with the drive over, I think that might be the way to do it. Or someplace local like that we can just drive to and then boom, have the campsite. And obviously we wouldn't be doing any live streaming, I don't believe, but we would shoot, shows and stuff like that. Every show would get like a camping theme that week, potentially. I don't know. Now's not the time to do it. It's a bummer that the summer is over, and I was dealing with a kid the whole time, because summer is a great time to go camping, and in the winter would not be a fun time to be in the desert. But maybe we could do it next year. Maybe we could do it soon. Josh Reed. By the time this is airing, we won't know the details of Easy Allies Phase 4 until tomorrow, but can you give us some vague thoughts as to where you want Easy A to go with this new phase without any specifics? We need it as a tease, Jones. Okay, here we go. I want allies to be happy. And I talked about this last week, but there were several moments where allies were like, oh, that's awesome. That's great. I'm excited about that. We were like, good. It was like, I'm scared about putting that thing aside or possibly shelving that show or, making that change. But I'm excited about working on this other thing. And like I said, also with Cup of Jones, a lot of this is still awaiting your feedback, still something that we are going to be evolving. You will see like new episodes of new things, not tomorrow, but they will be coming in the future. And we obviously want to know what you think about that. We have a wonderful opportunity at Easy Allies to evolve and to change things that we do episode to episode. Trailer Jones, I'm very curious about everybody's feedback. It's definitely moving in a direction that I love, that I'm excited about, that I've just, every time a new trailer comes out, I'm like, I want to change the way Trailer Jones works so I can cover stuff quicker. So excited to talk about that more. Jiff W52, how will you deal with the eventual deluge of feedback that will be received after Tuesday evening? Please don't make a drastic knee-jerk cutting off changes because people immediately hate it. Too late. The train has left the station. Keep the Easy A podcast on the new Friday, Sunday release schedule, please. Yeah, I don't think that would be a knee-jerk to people saying they hate it it's just a knee-jerk to us seeing that it's not working. And those are two different things. Like, one is us just not really giving something a chance, and being, adversely affected by negative responses. There will be positive responses. There will be negative responses. There will be ups and downs and all sorts of gooey stuff concerning this announcement. We know that's going to happen. I'm looking forward to reading all of it. How will I deal with it? I will go feed my child 100 milliliters of milk, stare into his giant, still developing eyeballs, and think about other things. But that's just me personally. I know many of the other allies. I would be surprised if Blood did that. If I went into the nursery and I saw Blood feeding Milo, I'd be like, I didn't know you were coming over. He'd be like, well, you said that worked for not dealing with comments. And I'd be like, touche, Blood, touche. So you got this feed? Blood would be like, I got it. And I'd be like, cool, Blood. Louis Sandiford, Ninja reportedly received a decent sum to move over from Mixer to Mixer from Twitch, I would imagine. Would EZA consider doing the same if that sort of offer was made to sell out? I mean, I certainly would. We are a partnership. There are 9 members of Easy Allies. We are an equal partnership in our business. Nobody owns the business more than other people. So all of us would have to be on board for that. But I'm always on board for selling out. Selling out is the best. Or is the viewer base that Twitch provides so integral to the EZA business model that it could never seriously be considered? However much Ninja made from that move is more money than we make on Twitch. More money than we've probably made on Twitch during the whole life of Easy Allies. So heck yeah, we would do that. But it's probably not going to happen. It's just not how our company is built. Beating down Brian but that was crazy, wasn't it? A fun story. Amanda came in. I was holding Milo, and Amanda came into the nursery and said something to me or asked me a question, and I said, "Oh, by the way, Ninja went to Mixer," and she was like, "What?" And I think I realized even before I said it that these are 2 words she doesn't know. She's heard the word Mixer before, and she knows the word Ninja, but she doesn't know in the context of what's going on. And I'm sure she went to a Fortnite party at E3 last year. I'm sure she probably has heard of Ninja, but in the context of that sentence, me just staring at her and saying Ninja went to Mixer. So that's become a joke between the 2 of us. When I say something that doesn't make sense, she's like, "Oh, really? Did Ninja go to Mixer?" And I'm like, "He did." Beating down Brian. With Phase 4 about to kick off, and after the dips we've seen on Patreon both this year and last, is it safe to say that the Patreon probably needs a refresh at least once a year to keep feeling exciting? Maybe. I mean, there's no rule that it needs to change. Wouldn't it be a dream if it didn't? If so, and I know it's hard to look that far ahead, do you see yourselves maybe planning a refresh a bit more far in advance next year, hopefully before any potential dip would come? Yeah, of course you want to change those things, not because and that definitely was one concern. We don't want this to look like we're freaking out because the numbers dipped. I am in absolutely no way freaking out about our dip on Patreon. Our dip on Patreon happened because of sponsors. It happened because, and we are looking into, we're not going to talk about this a lot more tomorrow night, but we are looking into ways of just shaking up sponsorship around events, around our podcasts, around our Patreon, how all of that works. Again, not a thing we're going to go, tomorrow is more geared toward content, but, yeah, that Patreon dip, what you are seeing tomorrow night, all this new stuff that would have happened regardless of a Patreon dip. That was something that we wanted to do after moving into the studio. It's something that we wanted to do based on people's reactions to the studio, reactions to their perceptions of what our schedule was at Easy Allies, changes that we already wanted to make. The survey was kind of just the launch pad from that. Maybe the drop in Patreon maybe made my leaving paternity leave and us discussing Phase 4 happen the same week. Maybe the Patreon dip was the cause of that. But this was definitely something that we wanted to do for a long time. So if we were above 50K, we would still be making these changes right now. I firmly believe the Finnish ally. I haven't dared to pitch a show idea before, but since changes are already on the way, I thought, what the heck? Last January, Ian made an easy update episode called Video Game Fantasy Draft League Thing. The goal of Fantasy Critics Fantasy Draft is basically bet on open critic scores, and the person whose games get the most points wins. The particular episode has over 27,000 views, which is among the best in the show's history. This got me thinking, would it be worth consideration to try to make this an annual show and make it bigger in every way? I'm talking about using the Mysterious Monsters setup, letting Huber host, having a couple of big-name guests, challenging the Allies, putting the Slessor Cup or the championship belt on the line, etc. I also took the liberty to write down a few pluses. I let you come up with the minuses. This show would differentiate yourself from other channels, since only Sifted is putting out similar content. Daily fantasy sports are also extremely popular. Fantasy Draft would be a nice combination of Mysterious Monsters, betting specials, and annual prediction streams. So, right in your wheelhouse. This would be a weekly or monthly job. This wouldn't be a weekly or monthly job. You would have to only do 2 shows per year. The main show, the results show at the end of the year. Plus, and I probably will have a results show, I imagine. Easy Update is not my show. I'm not the producer of it, but that would make sense to me. The results show at the end of the year. Plus, it would be a great way to integrate more guests. The ideal airtime would be late January or early February, so this would give you another piece of quality content between Goaties and your anniversary show. And finally, this would be a nice little nod from Easy A to people like me who like to play sports games. Thoughts? Thoughts are this is a Don Casanova, Ian Hink, Kyle Bossman proposition because the rest of us review games and we can't be involved because that's gross. We review games and then we're involved in this like very Vegas-like betting thing and where we're betting on what the scores are going to be and we're also scoring things. There can be, it can be a little saucy sometimes. It can be a little spicy in the games industry in terms of ethics and gaming journalism. And we don't want to do anything to stoke that fire. But Ian and Bossman and Don don't review games. So have at it. And it's kind of fun on the outside looking in at all of their various choices. And I kind of like that it's like not the entire team that does it. I like that it's just the 3 of them because I think that makes their consumption of the pool of available games more interesting. One person has more options. And so it makes, I think if it was like all 9 of us participating, even though we can't, I think you would see us making very predictable purchasing decisions. Whereas if you just have 3 of them, it's like, whoa, who knows what they're going to grab if something comes up? Who knows if they're going to spend more money on it? But it's fun. I'm excited to see who wins that sucker. I hope it will be Dawn. Steve S. Will the group be doing reactions for Gamescom? Yes, we will. Looks like we're getting a pack day on the 19th with Inside Xbox, Stadia Connect, the opening night live with GK. Yes, we will be there watching it. Kyle Bossman will be a part of that coverage, and so whether he's on camera or not, I don't know, but so he won't be there in our coverage, but a lot of other people will be. I think I saw Daniel I brought it up in chat, and a bunch of people said yes. Those people were Michael Damiani, Daniel Bloodworth, and Brad Ellis seemed interested, and I'm interested as well. Can't make promises for anything moving forward. And I didn't talk about that at the top. Very quickly, just kind of what it means with me coming back. Going to be on group streams, going to be on the podcast, going to be on Frame Trap, going to just in episodes moving forward. Probably going to still stay away from stuff like Fiasco Knots. We'll see if I have anything relevant to say on the next episode of Friend Code or any of those in the future. But those things I can at least promise I will return to. And of course, the full episodes to Cup of Jones and Trailer Jones, which won't have a weird month like it did in July. Apologies for that, patrons. Greg Kettering, I missed the regular scheduled collection of Easy A streams. My usual routine since the website was formed is on Monday morning, checking the schedule and seeing what all the allies are planning to stream for this week in their usual 1 to 2 hour block. This allowed me to plan on what I wanted to try and catch live, and I also feel that these streams and streaming in general really adds a connection in between the allies and the fan base and the other forms of content can provide. That the other forms of content can provide, shows, podcasts, etc. However, this year it's really dropped off significantly. And when a stream does happen, it's never scheduled and can pop up whenever, which in the past as a late night Damiani stream was fine, but it didn't replace his usual Friday slot. Now I'll take that over no streams at all, but I did enjoy a level of regularity. I know for Huber and you, there's been a significant personal items to deal with along with the studio move, so some stretches make sense. But right now, outside of Kyle and the group stream, it's always up in the air. I understand other work priorities can pop up, but I miss the regular Brandon, Huber, Ben, Brad, etc. streams each week. With the Phase 4 about to roll out, is there any chance streaming is an area of refocus? It just seems odd when it seems the subs and streaming were really growing at the end of last year when the streaming commitment dropped off. Okay. With the Phase 4 about to roll out, is there any chance streaming is an area of refocus? Yes. Liz Castro, I was watching a YouTuber try to not to laugh challenge video from the Fine Brothers channel, and I wondered if you or any of their allies would participate in something like that. We did that. That was an episode of Easy Update, right? I was not on that episode. I know Huber was amazing on that episode. But yeah, that's an easy update. I don't know if I think it was like the laugh challenge. I think easy update laugh challenge, or just boot up the easy update playlist and go through, and you will see people trying not to laugh in the thumbnail. It is like probably one of the most YouTube type shows and YouTube type thumbnails that we, and certainly Easy Update, has ever produced. Yeah, we already did that. And we should do it again, because that looked like it was a lot of fun and I wasn't a part of it. And I want to be a part of that. I want to try not to laugh. Daniel Ribeiro, I hope you used some of this time away from Easy Allies to experience how viewers see some of the content you all create. I know most of you rarely watch Easy A's content, or all of it, especially content you're not directly involved with, so this should be an interesting situation. Being part of the group, but being away and watching with an outside perspective. Can you please talk about anything you noticed or found interesting that maybe you hadn't before? This is our last business question, so this is a good one to end on. Doesn't matter if it was review, previews, reactions, Easy Living, Hall of Greats, etc. Hopefully this helped you understand a little better how we, the audience, see Easy Allies as a company, the allies and the content you all produce. This is like a sort of survey for Brandon Jones, the viewer, not brand manager, genuinely interested in your takes from an outside perspective, even if not entirely outside and only for a few weeks. Yeah, the podcast wasn't that different because I have missed episodes of the podcast before. One of the reasons the major reason that I wanted to still continue to edit the Easy Allies podcast is so that I could watch it. 44 minutes in, done with business questions, feels good. And that was a fair amount of business questions. But I still cut it because I wanted to know what the bets were. I wanted to know what, was going on with Galini's Game Jam and all, like any of those updates that Kyle will be talking about or referencing on the show moving forward. I wanted to be aware of those, and I wanted to still help out. I didn't want to have to hand that on to somebody or have that be a financial burden on Easy Allies. And I was able to do that through it. Also, it made, because I'm back from paternity leave today officially, and so it made this much less of a shock. Like when I cut the podcast tomorrow, it won't be like, oh, right, the podcast, whoa. So it was nice to still work on something. Like I said, I haven't watched the latest showcase. The showcase was weird. That was very strange, watching somebody else produce the showcase, because I know how much work goes into that. And it was strange just kind of watching that conversation veer off without me, watching it drift away like a hot air balloon. And so that was odd, not necessarily from an understanding of how that show looks, even though there are things about the showcase that I've always thought I would have loved to have changed, or loved to spend a little more money on it, or focus on something in terms of the showcase. And definitely double down on a lot of that stuff watching it. Kind of the same thing with Easy Living. Like, there's just a lot of thoughts I've had about Easy Living over the years. All of it is more money spent on it. This year I wanted to get a really nice place. We spent a little more money than we previously have on Easy Living this year. What I thought was securing just a really posh place, but apparently it was like a very old building and the AC didn't work. So it's just like, so it's tough with events to know how much money to spend on that stuff. Hall of Greats was interesting. I didn't watch it live. I watched part of it live, but I watched the entire thing afterwards. We will actually talk about Hall of Greats in the editorial today, which maybe I should have mentioned at the top of the show. Today's editorial will be about Hall of Greats. There are four or five comments specifically about Hall of Greats that I've all lumped together, and we will talk about after I'm done with personal questions really quickly in a long editorial just about Hall of Greats in general. But yeah, Hall of Greats was interesting because, it wasn't that fascinating because I don't know what questions people are going to bring. So even though I'm watching it from home, I still don't know what anyone's going to talk about. I just can't participate. I was thinking about maybe participating, but I realized I'm not going to be the part of the deliberation. Me being deliberated against, if that's a sentence, will probably be really tricky if I'm at home and I don't want to have to set up Skype and all that nonsense. So I was like, I just won't be a part of it. So not being a part of Hall of Greats, I think, was the weirdest part. I think the weirdest thing, and again, I know this is not, Daniel, this is not like what you want. Like, you want to know, like, how is it being a viewer? I've been a viewer this whole time. Like, I'm able to watch our stuff and understand, that's what it looks like when you watch stuff. I think if anything, what keeps me from watching that is just general fatigue. Whenever I put up an episode of Trailer Jones, it's like, I'd love to watch it like one more time, but it's like, I'm just so done with this episode. And I'm so nervous that I messed up something. There's some title in there, some opinion that I said that people don't like, and all those nerves when you put up a new thing. So I've been there, and I'm, I try as much as possible to step behind the camera when we're streaming, so, step behind the camera at least once to kind of like talk with Damiani and see what things look like. And so I'm very familiar what things look like from behind the camera and from, watching stuff live and going back and watching, episodes of Cup of Jones and stuff like that. The weird thing, where my paternity leave felt the most weird was when I would come by and pick up the podcast cards right before they were going to do the group stream. Because I don't know, I guess you want people to miss you. Like you want to be needed. You want to like stroll into the room and have everybody be like, "Oh, Jones, and we can't wait for you to come back because things are so desperate without you. And boy, it's just been really hard without your really, tremendous contributions to this company and to the art that we produce here at Easy Allies." And it was very much like, "Oh, hey, what's up, Jones?" I'm like, "Hey, I'm back." And it's like, "Oh, cool. You're just going to get in the podcast cards? You're not going to be on the group stream, right?" I'm like, "No." Like, "Oh, cool. Good to see you." I'm like, I work with 8 very talented, very capable human beings that could very much run this company without me doing anything. And so that was a weird vibe. Not again that they were being weird. It was just weird to experience. It was weird to feel that. It was weird to kind of like pop into this stream and be like, "Hey," and then like take off, just because, that there were like tournaments are going to happen. Hall of Greats are going to happen. That the Ultimate Alliance stream, I was like, I want to play Ultimate Alliance. I was thinking about maybe playing online with them, but it's just like, you just don't know. This is what you're seeing right now. Like this, I'd be like, wow, Jones has really got that baby thing figured out. If he's doing a full, episode, this is all Amanda. Amanda is just completely taking over Milo Town right now. Amanda's mayor of Milo Town. And when you're mayor of Milo Town, you can't do really anything else very well. And so, even just watching things sometimes at ECA was tricky while I was gone. But that was the weirdest thing, because like I would always just be like, "Okay, well, I got the card, so I guess I'll go home." And I would just grab my backpack and like go home, go down the steps, hearing all of this, the raucous podcast conversations and group stream banter that was happening behind me, and just go home and take care of my child, I guess. Personal questions. So yeah, hopefully that will be the amount of business questions. But if you recall from the last 40 or so minutes of us talking about Easy Allies business, there was some dense questions in there, and I think I might just abridge those. I might be like, hey, like for example, like, hey, Brandon Kigyan wants to know more about Easy Living. So the thing about Easy Living, where I'm not going to read like 40 sentences, so understand that if you are writing a big thing, I will interpret that as making me understand the point that you want to make, and then I will see that text when I answer that question, and then I will communicate that to our audience. But I'm not necessarily going to take a full 5-10 minutes to like read your whole comment. Because we have gotten people who are like, "And now my one-person play called My Patreon Comment of Cup of Jones, starring Brandon Jones, one night only." Want to do away with that. Streamline this show. Make this show something a lot of people actually want to watch because it's very focused on Easy Allies. So we'll do personal questions for this week. Maybe do it next week. We'll see what personal questions, what form it takes in the future. But heck, let's do it now. Megan Linart. So I just started Red Dead Redemption 2. Back up and enjoying it a lot more my second time through. I don't have to focus on the campaign as much and can just enjoy the world. I'm curious, when you played, did you find it more enjoyable when you could just take your time and explore the world, or did you just hammer through the campaign? I mean, of course I hammered through the campaign for the review, and I enjoyed that very much, but I don't know how much I would have enjoyed not doing that because I didn't do that. I don't know. As much as I like the campaign, I find just ignoring it helps me enjoy it more. Definitely. So I started a second Red Dead campaign, which will be really interesting, which one of my criticisms of Red Dead Redemption is doing that. Having a second playthrough is tricky with the save files. There's not like a way you can label it. It'd be nice to have it labeled like a different color or something so I could easily tell, that save file going there. I don't know, man. Sometimes it feels like you ninja'd in and out of the studio. Didn't feel like you had a lot of space to talk. We'll be glad to have you back on the podcast this week. Oh, yeah. No, again, that's not a criticism. And anyway, it's a sorry, this is Bloodworth in chat. It's a strength. It's me speaking to what a well-oiled machine we have at Easy Allies. How you take certain instruments out of that thing, and other people, man, can't talk all the time. I work with good guys. Long story short, I started a second playthrough of Red Dead Redemption as a bad guy. I wear an all black outfit. I never change it. I just have this like black outfit. And I am ruthless. I'm absolutely terrible to people. I make horrible decisions whenever I can. I'm mean to people whenever I can. And I stopped on chapter 2. Once I could tell that the next mission I was going to do was going to move me from chapter 2 to chapter 3, I stopped doing the story because that is my favorite campsite in the whole game. Your second campsite when you move out of the snow. That spot next to... it's not Armadillo. What the heck is this? Not Strawberry. What's the name of that town? It's been a while since I played Red Dead. Yeah. Kyle, yeah, it'd be nice to get back to the podcast for bets. But Kyle has done okay with bets since I've been gone. Don't want to spoil bets. But yeah, I do like just running around that world. It's crazy to still like explore things. It's crazy to do the evil version of stuff and be like, whoa, that's not how that turned out. Or wow, that actually did not work out very well for me or worked out better than it did before. Nathan 25, thoughts on Cobra Kai? Do you have any interest in the show or the Karate Kid franchise? I've very much an interest in the Karate Kid franchise. I've seen all 3 Karate Kid films. I didn't see the reboot, but specifically Karate Kid 1 and 2, of course. Seen Karate Kid 1 many times. Saw Karate Kid recently for some reason. Karate Kid was on something, I don't know why. And I'm really curious to see this. I actually have had multiple friends that have seen Cobra Kai and said it was very cool. That's on YouTube Red, I believe, or YouTube Awesome, YouTube Plus, YouTube Great, YouTube Cash, whatever it's called. Alex Pisa, would you like a second child? No, thanks. Asbo Zapruder, I'm looking forward to seeing what you all have planned for the future of Easy Allies, but this transition to the new phase of EZA has me wondering a bit about the beginnings. So let's go back in time to each day you first met each of the allies. If someone would have told you that someday you would be business partners with that person, how would you have reacted? YouTube Premium, there we go. It's really good to show off both seasons. I didn't know there were 2 seasons. Nice. YouTube Extreme. I keep looking at this alien flower pot over your head, wondering what the heck that thing is. This thing over here? Well, over my head is a art that we picked up at Comic-Con from How to Train Your Dragon, and I pointed it out to Amanda. I was like, "Oh, that's How to Train Your Dragon," and Amanda was like, "Oh, she just likes its dragons." But this thing is a dragon. Look, it's a dragon. See, a little head like ring pops out, so it has like a little wick. But you light the wick, and you like the fire of the dragon. I might decorate this corner. I don't know. Thought about it. I don't know how long I'm going to be here. I might be in this corner for another month or 2. I'm not sure. I would be surprised, Asbo. I'd be like, oh, really? Oh. And then, like, I wouldn't be surprised, though, that I was going to be going into these business with these people because that's how business works. You go into business with people you've done business with before, usually. I went into business at Game Trailers with 3 friends from high school. One which I wish I hadn't have gone into business with him because that didn't work out very well. Fun stories from the beginning of Game Trailers. But certainly from doing business with these people, like Kyle, for example, if you had pointed that out, I'd be like, oh, yeah, that makes sense. Like, I'm at Game Trailers now. If I'd be like, when am I going to do this thing? They'd be like, 2016. I'd be like, cool. By 2016, I'm probably going to be ready. You know, don't spoil the Game Trailers folds and all of that stuff. But I'll be like, by then, I'd probably be ready to move on to another endeavor. And that sounds cool that I'll own my business with these guys. That's great. But, I mean, how would I have reacted if, you know, if someone had told you then that someday you'd be business partners with this person? I'd be like, how do you know? And they'd be like, because I'm in the future. I'd be like, whoa. I'd probably be more like amazed that they're from the future. And I know that's a cheaty way to answer that question, but it's true. Happy gaming. Do you have any personal methods for getting yourself out of a depressive and or creative slump? Exercise, meditation, of course, meditation, first and foremost, meditation, distance, just separate yourself from that thing. If it's really making you angry, if you have a creative slump, it's always good to just try and write, to just go, stop. Like you're like, yeah, but I don't like this thing that I'm writing. It's like, just write it, go. Finish the thing, get a structure, send it. There's something that Easy Allies is going to be doing either near the end of this year or the beginning of next year that I'm organizing and planning that the Allies are like, we need some more details about that. And so I wrote a thing that's not perfect. It's not finished, but it's something. And so I'm like, send that on. So you don't have to be super proud you got that thing done. You don't have to be proud of the actual quality of it yet. Just get it done. Depression's a different thing, though. So yeah, number 1 would be meditation, which we've talked about before and we will talk about again. Number 2 would be exercise. And that includes just walking. It's great to have this dog who is sleeping on the ground in front of me. So because I could take her out for walks. Got to be careful to use the W word around that dog. But it's nice to just get out and get some fresh air, to get a change of scenery. I don't think anyone would believe you're from the future unless you brought an iPhone to the 60s. Yeah, I wonder what you could do, and then they'd burn you for being a witch. This is Bloodworth in chat. I wonder what you'd have to do to convince somebody. I always like those scenes. Those scenes are always so much fun. Like Superman telling like Clark, or Superman telling Lois, or sorry, Clark telling Lois he's Superman, or like, you know, Marty telling Doc he's from the future, or like, I love that when someone has like a tremendous amount of information. Shazam, which I haven't seen, but Shazam, like finding his friend in Big, same scene where like finding the friend and being like, no, it's me. You know, like I wonder if I like moved into a different body, or like was a child suddenly, or had superpowers, or became a vampire, or what. Like, I wonder if I could be effective at communicating that to people closest to me, or if I would botch it just like everybody else. Because I hate it in movies when people are like too emotional to be effective. You're just like, calm down, and you won't be scaring this person right now. Red Sky. That went on a tangent. Sorry, Happy Gaming. Red Sky, have you had much time to play Super Mario Maker 2 since the game was released? I haven't. I jumped in a little bit, and then I moved on to Builders. I have now finished Builders. Finished as in I got end credits on Builders. I still have a lot of building to do within Builders and a lot of stuff to play. And there's an update, which we got from Square. Thank you, Square. That comes on the 20th. I think we're going to get new stuff. An epilogue, which should be interesting. But right now I have moved on to Ultimate Alliance 3, and it's so good. Ultimate Alliance 3 is so great, and I'm playing that by myself, but I was able to kickstart that campaign this weekend. I actually went over to my friend's house and played that with 2 of my closest friends, one of whom I played X-Men Legends 1, X-Men Legends 2, Ultimate Alliance 1, and Ultimate Alliance 2 with. And so it was great to play with that person, have that person look at the cast and be like, okay, I like Scarlet Witch, and I'm guessing Doctor Strange is in this. I want to play as Doctor Strange as well. So be like, cool. So I know to level up those characters, excuse me. So when I play with him next, I'll have those characters ready. And just finally got to the X-Men and just unlocked some fun people. Finally got Hawkeye. Like, yeah, Hawkeye's in my party. That game's fun. But it's not Mario Maker 2, sorry. If so, what are your thoughts on the game compared to the first one? This is my first Mario Maker title, and I've been so enraptured in the gameplay loop of creating and playing and getting involved in the online communities. I'm looking forward to future updates. And so far, the ability to play with friends and an additional increase in the created level cap have been confirmed. I need to spend way more time with Mario Maker 2. I reviewed Mario Maker 1. I believe I gave it an 8.5. Might have given it an 8.4. This looks like... It's interesting having this and Builders 2 on Switch at the same time, because they're such obviously like expanded sequels. They're the sequels that are very much about the systems in place, about how quickly you can create things, and it just seems like so much was done. Specifically, I think what's really impressive about Mario Maker 2 that I've seen is like somebody made like was it Ultima Online? What was it like first, or was the first Ultima, I guess, was in that style with just the kind of like click, click, click going, the like fake first person where you're going first person kind of frame by frame. Doom RPG and Wolfenstein RPG also had this style. I know that I don't know a lot about PC gaming. I'm a horrible historian when it comes to very early PC gaming. But somebody built one of those in Mario Maker. It's crazy. Like you control like Luigi in the corner, dungeon crawler, I guess. Sure. So yeah, there's just the infamous flame, when somebody just added like flame twirlies to the very first level of first Super Mario Brothers game. And it's kind of the same thing with Dreams. It's gonna be interesting to see if Dreams kind of gets a renaissance of those types of posts again on like Polygon and Kotaku, where it's like, hey, check out this crazy level. And I think with a game like Dreams and a game like Mario Maker 2, that's kind of one of the easy barometers if you're not going to be playing the game or reading reviews or buying it, to get a sense of like, yeah, I keep hearing about Mario Maker 2. It keeps coming up on Twitter. I keep seeing headlines made about it. I keep seeing, recommended YouTube videos of people playing crazy levels and GIFs on social media and videos, even though I'm not really focused on that game, and just like, wow, there's just a lot going on with Mario Maker. And so that's kind of been my summer with that game is, I have it is sitting on my Switch, is waiting for me. I have played through a bunch of levels. I'm bummed that I don't have time to review it, just like Ultimate Alliance and Builders 2. Had to pass a lot of those things along. But it's a deep deep, dense game, to the point where I was actually kind of scared, even not knowing that I was going to be on like rush preemie paternity, leave, looking at all of the extensive stuff. Cause I know Ian and Don were very much more in tune with the trailers and the directs that they were having. So they knew a lot of those features before that game launched. And when the game was close to launch, I'm like, I don't know anything that's in this game. I'm going to be discovering a lot of that just going through the game itself. And I hope I don't miss anything. And then I was like, oh, wait, no, I have a kid. Never mind. Have fun playing Mario Maker 2, everybody. One more personal question. Then we'll do an editorial. And then this episode will be not much longer than an hour, which is rad. This can be a quick one because this is, for me, a very, very easy answer. Morgan Mohala, how do you feel about American politicians citing violent video games as a cause of mass shootings? Not great. Do you have any thoughts on gun control in America, and how is your industry, now that your industry has been scrutinized? Also, as a leader in the video game industry, thank you, Morgan, would you be willing to reach out to politicians and attempt to discuss gun violence in video games with the goal of educating and informing them on the matter? Sure. I don't know if I'm going to waste my time doing too much of that if it's not going to get me anywhere. But it is interesting seeing people brought in when it's like, wait a minute, this is a gaming thing. We need someone who knows about games. And seeing people like Adam Sessler or Brian Crescente or like people who are known for being that person, Patrick Klepek is somebody who you would imagine doing something like that. Even like a Michael Pachter, you never know where he's going to pop up. It's been interesting. Sometimes that happens. Shane Satterfield did that sometimes when we were back at Game Trailers, where he's like, hey, I'm going to be on K-Rock, or hey, I'm going to be on the radio talking about Madden, or talking about something, political or non-political, or something where it was like, it just all, it shows when politicians say that, or when newscasters are like, hey, you violent video games. That's interesting. It's like, none of you play video games. It's so obvious that none of you people who are talking about this, none of you people are even considering that for a second. Oh yeah, Call of Duty is very fun. Yeah, the Fortnite, that they got a lot of guns in that Fortnite. They're constantly shooting guns at everybody. It's weird and it's messy, and there have been very, very good articles written on this admittedly weird looking obsession that a lot of gamers had with weapons. I don't own a gun. I definitely think that high capacity magazines should not be a thing you could buy. Assault rifles seem like a silly thing that should be so easy to purchase. Gun shows, should be closer looked at and stuff like that. Again, not running around, not taking away people's guns. Don't want to take away people's rights, but those guns it's a very easy thing to shoot those guns and kill people. And hopefully it shouldn't be that easy. I would like it if there was a greater presence to get away from specific like topics in the debate. I would like it if there was more heat put on people buying guns. You know what I mean? Like, so if you want to get a gun to go do something mean, if you're like, yeah, I'm gonna get this gun and I'm gonna go do something awful, it's gonna make people upset. It'd be nice to know that you're like, ooh, I gotta be careful about this. It's like I want gun control to get to that point where that person buying that gun's like, this is going to be tricky. How am I going to do that? And I don't feel it's tricky. In 2019, it's just very clearly not hard to do. And so I would like to shift into that. If there was a meter, like a DEF CON meter, I would like the arrow to move to the part where the person acquiring a weapon to do a terrible thing is like, that's going to be hard to do. That's as far as I will take that discussion. And the video games causing mass shootings is ridiculous. Any one thing causing a mass shooting is ridiculous. It's many, many, many things. Mass shootings are done by people. People are complex. Nobody does anything for one reason. It's always just especially something that severe and potentially almost immediately life-ending. There's a lot going on there. There are many factors. Video games might be a common thread, not a cause, and pretty low on the influence factor. Pretty low. It's in there. It's a part of that great big gumbo that causes these people to do, terrible things. It affects people. I wouldn't play video games if they didn't affect me. That's why I play them, because they are very affecting. And I do get affected by when Ellie shoots someone in Last of Us, when she fires a gun, it has impact. It should. So having violence in games does have impact. Does it make somebody, go out and buy an automatic rifle and go kill people? I don't think so. But Morgan Mulhalla, keeping it spicy, keeping it fresh, keeping that TRT of Cup of Jones short, and hopefully keeping it light and lively, even though we are talking about very serious points. There is no more serious point than the Hall of Greats, which we will now move on to in a very serious editorial I'm calling Hall of Greats. we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 questions, 6 comments on Hall of Greats. So I'm going to take a very long sip of this cup, and then we're going to get into. Yeah, Brielle Jodite. Brielle? It's a beautiful name. Brielle Jodite. Jones is just covering his butt for his evil Red Dead Redemption playthrough. Totally. I'm obsessed with guns and games. Guns are like, neat. They're neat inventions. It sucks. It sucks following, gun violence to say that, to be like, guns are fascinating inventions, but they are, and so it's like when I'm in Ghost Recon and I'm like, oh, this scope is so cool. But then it's like, hey, you with the assault rifle, stop it. It's, that's confusing messaging. I admit that. But again, it's why it's a stew. It's a big stew. We're all a big stew. Editorial on Hall of Greats. Hi, I'm Brandon Jones. I was not in the last Hall of Greats, but I have things to say about it. I'm going to read all of these comments and maybe do really quick answers, but let's just get all of this out there before we talk about Hall of Greats. Kerbu, with Kyle and Ian's blatant outright sabotage of the sacred Hall of Greats this week. Sacred. I simply must know, has there ever been any serious consideration to Hall of Hates? I have to admit, it's always a treat when the gloves come off and the allies dig into reasons small or large while they don't like a game. Normally, it's a huge tangent, and you can read the room is eager to course correct the longer Kyle spends complaining in something like the Gold Man, so it never gets fully indulged outside of a live stream. Maybe not Hall of Hate specifically, but I'm just curious if there's been any interest or discussion on something to that effect amongst the allies, or is serious and not so serious criticism discussion forever relegated to ill-timed tangents? Hall of Hates. Yeah, we're not gonna. I think one of the big things about doing Hate Anything, a show that's geared, any sort of special limited series or ongoing show that's like, tune into this show to find out what we hate, you run out of them. Like, I think we have way more things at Easy Allies that we like than things that we hate. And so if we did a show about hating things, we would stop the show. We would sunset every now and then. We'd have to do seasons. We've thought about that, though. That's definitely come up. And in game trailers, this kind of stuff came up all the time. Hate sells, like on YouTube. Hate's big. Whenever you put up in something where you're just like, this thing made me angry. It's like, whoa, I got to watch that. Yeah, we would get just tired of it. We'd run out of topics. Falcon. A simple request for Hall of Greats streams moving forward. If someone has a video, always keep the allies in a corner of the screen. One of the best parts of Hall of Greats is seeing the group react to the presentations and games chosen. Damiani and Kyle had especially funny videos this time, and we missed the reactions. It makes no sense to have the reason you're watching you guys off screen. It does. I will take that under advisement. I will pass that on to the group. I believe I wrote that in takeaways. It does if it's a specific request by the presenter. So we always do what the presenter wants us to do. Whenever people submit videos or images or gameplay or PowerPoint presentations or whatever, Damiani asks that person, how do you want to do this? And then they say it. So that might be something that was overlooked, or that might be something that specifically that person wanted the video just to be there and didn't want reactions on screen. It's up to them. It's their 5 minutes. Excuse me. Jeffrey Tessar wrote 2 comments. I'm only reading the first one, so I've already done some abridging. Watching Hall of Greats, and I just have a general question. Is this something that we should take serious anymore? If people are purposely trying to get a game 0 points to get it banned, are we just treating this as a bit from now on? Originally, I thought the idea was to get a consensus of all 9 allies when possible and find out which games they feel are best of all. With people constantly abusing the rules and not taking it seriously, is it worth wasting a Tuesday on anymore? That is basically the basis for the editorial. So I'm going to move on, and we can talk about that after I get all these questions out. Varun Krachwaha, this is the first Hall of Greats that you missed out on, if I recall correctly. Even if it wasn't, I was wondering what your thoughts are on the experience as a viewer. I've heard many comments, including the one by the Finnish ally below, talking about how the vibes were really bad throughout. Did you sense any of that as well? Is everything okay between the allies? I understand everyone can't get along all the time, but there was something about the Hall of Greats I can't quite put my finger on. A lot of it didn't feel like a bit or anything. It felt like there was some elephant in the room, an uneasy tension somewhat. A lot of this is from the comments I have read and could easily be confirmation bias from those comments that I have read. I'm not sure if you can reveal this or not, but is anyone leaving in Phase 4? No, nobody's leaving. Are there tensions within the allies? Always. I mean, tensions with everybody. Tensions at work, tensions, I'm not referring to whatever tensions you might have perceived in Hall of Greats. I wasn't there. I don't know what that room felt like. There's no time at Easy Allies in the 3.5 years we've been doing this that I could have said, hey, good news this week. No tensions. Again, more things that I've read here on Reddit, but I'm the type to go get worried easily. Apologies in advance. I will admit this, it is rough to announce Phase 4 and then do a Hall of Greats. It's a horrible time to do a Hall of Greats. I know this is a very difficult question to answer, and there are many things you probably can or should not say. And a lot of this is hearsay. And I apologize if any of this comes across as being harsh or mean or negative place at all. Nope. But again, more fodder for our editorial that we will get to in a second. Icon Master, I move that the Easy Allies return to the former voting process and confessional cam for Hall of Greats. We don't need to be surprised by the results. We want to hear the Allies explaining their thought processes. Yes, every episode of Hall of Greats has been influenced by the previous episode, so no two episodes are the same. It's always an evolving show. So we will take that picture-in-picture note and take that because we definitely changed up the format this time. I didn't experience it firsthand, so I don't know if it was better from my perspective. I'm curious to get the feedback from the other allies and see what they thought. Bino wrote a huge comment. Here we go. Okay, so far we've had a few posts about how the new format for Hall of Greats wasn't so great and how the vibes felt a bit off for this one. But I want to address the elephant in the room and talk about Ian's presentation specifically, because it didn't really sit right with me, and going by the YouTube comments, I'm not alone in feeling that way. Now, it's not an easy subject to talk about since it's directed at one ally specifically. So let me preface this by saying that I don't have anything against Ian personally. Sure, he can be very opinionated and isn't shy about letting you know which can rub some people the wrong way at times, but I've always been of the opinion that that's part and parcel to who he is, and who he is an incredibly thoughtful, intelligent, creative being with a lot of to contribute. So while I don't necessarily always agree with everything he says, generally I do respect his opinions and appreciate his input, and I think he's an essential part of what makes Easy Allies the wonderful group that you are. Now, with all that being said, his presentation this time, for me, really crossed a line between feeling like satire and lighthearted trolling, see Bossman or Damiani's presentations, into feeling genuinely spiteful and malicious. I think the intention behind his presentation was to make a statement that it doesn't matter how good or bad a Hall of Greats presentation is, people just vote based on their preconceived opinions of a game anyway, which incidentally, I don't think is true otherwise. PSO, I wouldn't have joined it the first time, and Dark Souls wouldn't have been banned last time. But regardless of intent, I think it's fair to say that Ian just took it way too far this time. Just to comment while we're still going too far, my opinion on Hall of Greats in general is that I don't think there's a too far. If he just put together a deliberately bad presentation formed of quotes from questionable sources, I would have been disappointed and maybe a little annoyed, but I wouldn't have been writing this post. It's the fact that he chose to pair it up with images that many people will find disturbing. Did you see poor Ben grimace and start shuffling uncomfortably when the spider popped up? And most egregiously, deliberately distorted, overly loud audio, which can only have been intended to hurt people's ears. Thank God I had my speakers on low and wasn't wearing headphones. And that took from being disappointing to downright disrespectful of the audience, in my opinion. This, to me, constitutes unacceptable behavior. Again, quite like unacceptable behavior is a little sharp, I think. And while I won't be so bold as to tell you how I think you should handle it or what the repercussions, again, it's like, wow. I do think that it's an issue that deserves some serious thought, and I will say that at the very least. I don't want to see another presentation like this one ever again. Noted by now. Possibly the saddest part of all of this is that when Ian decides to put his heart into it, Myst and Silent Hill 2 spring to mind, he can produce some truly wonderful stuff. I just want Hall of Greats to be fun, again, because when it's good, it makes for some of the best streams you guys do. It's just unfortunate that this particular one will forever be tainted in my eyes. Okay. So yeah, this is Jones' take on Hall of Greats. The beautiful thing about Hall of Greats is that there are 9 of us, and 9 of us all bring our own ideas to Hall of Greats. We have one person, Michael Damiani, who does wrangle all of the games that we are bringing. And there have been in the past weird crossover shenanigans. But generally, it's 9 people bringing 9 games that they like, that they want to be included in Hall of Greats. Over the years we've been doing Hall of Greats, people have I brought Pong one time. I think Pong deserves the Hall of Greats. I can talk about Pong being one of the greatest games that anyone has ever made with a straight face. Like, I understand that it's just ping, 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 but I can still do that. There are lots of good qualities to Pong. Do I expect Pong to win in that group? No. And I didn't when I brought it that night. And that was fun. It was fun to go and kind of take the shackles off and be like, I'm not going to be upset if World of Warcraft gets banned for a year. I'm not going to, be upset if nobody votes for this. I'm not going to be upset if it doesn't get a lot of traction. I'm not going to be upset if I look over the room. And that's one of the most brutal things. It's not what anybody says in Hall of Greats. It's to like looking around the room and seeing people just like, you're like, oh no, I'm having no impact whatsoever. Having no impact is almost worse than having a bad impact. And I didn't get to be on Hall of Greats this time. I don't know what game I'm going to bring for the next Hall of Greats, but when I was planning to be on this Hall of Greats, I was going to make a video, and I was going to make a video about a game. I'm not going to tell you what game, but a game I did not expect to win, a game I didn't think was going to get a lot of traction. Hall of Greats was an interesting conversation when we had our Phase 4 meetings. There are definitely frustrations, surrounding Hall of Greats. I love Hall of Greats because Hall of Greats for me is kind of at the front lines of what skills I want us to develop at Easy Allies, tools we are using, stuff we are practicing that I think will make us better allies, make us better at the jobs that we do. I think reactions do that, but obviously those can only happen when the industry decides for them to happen. We can't create our own reactions around stuff, at least not get the same impact than we would when we react to big things. And so when we have Hall of Greats, we are kind of like flexing our muscles a little bit and stretching, not only like our improv vibes, kind of like we do in Fiasconauts, but to me, it's Hall of Greats is everything. It's us doing what we do in reviews and on Frame Trap, where we're talking about the qualities of a specific game, but trying to word them in a particular way, sell them to a particular group, and talk about them with a time constraint. Then we have to react to debates. We have to react to people asking us questions. So we're dealing with the interview part of the job, where you don't know what is going to be presented to you, and you have to improvise. And a lot of that, as I'm sure the allies are realizing, has little to do with the information that you have, and a lot to do with your temperament, a lot to do with your attitude, a lot to do with how patient that you will, you'll be in terms of questions being asked to you. Bloodworth says, I don't think Ian's video was meant to target Brad or anything. It was a procedural experiment, and he went with the game that he believed would get votes, even with a poor presentation. So even when Hall of Greats is messy, it doesn't make me want to do Hall of Greats less. Even if we have a Hall of Greats that I don't like, and as opposed to one. And I've had some Hall of Greats in the past that I've walked away from and been very frustrated by, and been like, God, but I didn't. They don't understand, why didn't they vote? And Hubert says GoldenEye has a bad frame rate, and it's easy to get angry about Hall of Greats. It's easy for Hall of Greats to mean that you're wrong in your gaming opinions. And so I want to answer one question that was specifically asked among these that were aimed at Hall of Greats. Should we take Hall of Greats seriously? Yes, you should take Hall of Greats seriously. By that, I mean the Hall of Greats. Not any one particular Hall of Greats stream, not any one particular performance, not any one particular video or presentation or question or reaction or betrayal or vote or anything, but the actual Hall of Greats, the actual games that make it in that list. One of the things that I think the process of Hall of Greats speak to is the fact that, we do a lot of ranking here at Easy Allies. We have a countdown, we do reviews, we do Game of the Year awards, we do awards after E3, we do bets. There's a lot of how is this compared to this? Quality-wise, can that even be determined? So in terms of, it's so subjective. Like whenever we do anything, I try to, we always try to put or communicate that, put the Easy Allies words at the front of that. So this is the Easy Allies game of the year. We're not saying everyone should consider this the game of the year. This is our game of the year. And that's all dependent on 9 weirdos all voting on this particular day following this particular conversation after having spent 365 days playing these particular games. That's just how it worked out, and we encourage you to go and read other people's articles for their game of the years and find out what they had to say about, the games that they're excited about. It's kind of the same thing, and same thing with reviews. This is just one person's opinion about a score. We all generally at Easy Allies agree and are comfortable with the scores that we give out. But again, that is just one person giving out that score. So whereas it is entertainment that we stand by, and I think it is ethically constructed, it is still just a very messy process. There's determining why, the ranking of one thing, why one thing is better than the other thing, the point value to describe the quality of one thing. And so when it comes to Hall of Greats, it's like that process is always going to be really messy. Even if we absolutely do our best and everybody is, brings, a very serious, deliberately intentional in terms of how the usual presentations on Hall of Greats go, it could still be a very messy Hall of Greats. it could still be frustrating when you see how everything ranks up in terms of what you think is going to get in or in terms of what doesn't get in. It kind of reminds me of Trailer Jones when, three of us will provide a score, and then at the end, even though the final score is different from my score, I'll kind of look at it and be like, I like that score better. And I find that when I would go to Hall of Greats, even though we had the rule not to vote for our own stuff, I still wouldn't want to, because I would go and talk about kind of my preference for gaming and what I think about what should be on a top 100 list, or what should be in a Hall of Greats, or Hall of Fame, if you will. But that's just based on my experience, based on my opinions, based on my tastes. And then somebody else will bring something up, and I'm like, yeah, Super Mario Brothers 3, that deserves to be in the Hall of Greats way more than the game that I brought. And so there has to be a level of detachment in enjoying Hall of Greats. You have to detach yourself from the games that are eventually going to get in it. You have to detach yourself from your interest and your opinions and emotions surrounding the games that other people are going to bring that you don't know. All of a sudden somebody drops something, you're like, oh, I hate that game, or oh, I'm really emotional about that game. You have to detach yourself from how your own game will perform. And you have to detach yourself not only from how the voting is going to go, but from how your presentation is going to be perceived by the other allies. So I think one of the only dangerous things about what Ian did with his presentation is the expectation, which he didn't have expectations, but like the expectation that this is going to work a certain way. And you don't know that. That's like, you have to go into Hall of Greats being like, here's what I'm going to do. And then I'm going just to deal with the repercussions of how everybody, was affected by that. And if you know Damiani, if you know Kyle, if you know Ian, if you know some of these guys, you know how they not only set up things like that, very creative portrayals of and Don. I mean, Don, how beautiful is Don's approach to Hall of Greats? How wonderfully pure is his understanding and his approach to Hall of Greats every single time. I wouldn't want Don to not do Don when he does those things. I wouldn't want Kyle to be scared of bringing Mega Man Legends back. And I wouldn't want Ian to stay away from doing things like this every now and then where, is hearing something very loud in your ear pleasant? No. But I like that Ian's being creative. I like that Ian is expressing himself. And I think in a lot of ways, we can express Hall of Greats seems to be a natural show to me to evolve and stretch and to occasionally be scandalous and to have every single episode remind us, kind of like Easy Living and when we do E3 coverage, where like the moment we wrap up Hall of Greats, I'm like, okay, I have an idea for the next Hall of Greats. Like, oh, okay, I want, I think this would work better, or I think we should maybe try this format, or certainly if someone seemed like they weren't having a good time, like if somebody was like, yeah, I didn't enjoy that Hall of Greats, or yeah, I didn't, I like how that one thing wrapped up. Then we talk about it afterwards, and then that affects the next Hall of Greats. So, curious to see when we have our meeting at the end of the month, because we haven't really had a postmortem on that Hall of Greats, like what people think about, Ian's presentation and other people's presentations, how we want that show to evolve moving forward. And Blood adds, Ian's point was about testing the game of Hall of Greats. I really don't think it has anything to do with a specific game. And I think that's it. Again, it's like, Ian might have presented a very messy process, and a scandalous process in terms of getting one particular game into the Hall of Greats. But if a game is going to get past that gauntlet of those very opinionated men that are in that room, that love to argue, that love to bicker, that love to stand behind the things that they believe in and talk about their opinions very loudly over other people's very loud opinions about the games that they like. If your game makes it through and gets those votes and gets in Hall of Greats, I really can't think of going back to a format of how you would present a game to be like, that was disingenuous and that wasn't earned because that person's presentation was weird. Like, it gets the votes or it doesn't get the votes. And I don't necessarily think it's true that a bad presentation or a good presentation will get you into Hall of Greats. I've had games that I voted for that had bad presentations that I voted for anyway. I had games that I wasn't necessarily interested in that I voted for purely based on their presentations. I've had Hall of Greats that ended that I wasn't really impressed with anybody's presentation. Or not impressed with their presentations, but like wasn't wowed by it. It wasn't like, whoa, that one presentation clearly just owned. It's just kind of like, everybody brought games and they were fun. And I'm just going to pick based on, what I think probably my opinions going into it. It's never the same. And so I don't look at Hall of Greats. Hall of Greats is as great as the last episode that we did. And so I don't it's been rare. I've never ever finished a Hall of Greats and thought we shouldn't do Hall of Greats anymore. I've had lots of ideas about how we can change Hall of Greats. I've had lots of ideas about Hall of Greats immediately following an episode of Hall of Greats, but I've never been so incensed about something or frustrated by a loss or confused by one ally's presentation or their opinion on something enough to be like, we have problems here, or Hall of Greats is something that is damaging to Easy Allies. I think Hall of Greats puts hair on our chest. I think it helps us be better reviewers. It helps us be better allies, better friends. I think it helps us do better at our jobs. And I think it encompasses so many different fun things that we also do in other areas of Easy Allies that that would be a very hard thing for me to say goodbye to. So, spoilers, Hall of Greats is not going away in Phase 4. But it might change, and we might have this conversation again after the next Hall of Greats. And certainly, that is what Cup of Jones is for. And as you can see, possibly moving forward into future episodes of Cup of Jones, I will be organizing some of these other comments and then organizing them into an editorial. Apologies that I don't do editorial. Some weeks I just don't know what to do an editorial on. So maybe it will just always be question focused. So I'm going to be making a lot of effort to make Cup of Jones very fast. This is an 1.5-hour episode. I think we can even go faster. I'm going to be abridging questions very much moving forward. I will possibly be answering questions. If we do future episodes and you don't hear me answering a question, you're like, I think you skipped my question. Check in the comments. I might have either just given it a heart or given a reply or considered it a personal question, so I answered it in text. Or, again, we might be building... definitely not planning on doing that next week, but we've talked for a long time about a Cup of Jones Q&A, possibly a forum post or part of the website or part of Patreon where you can go to and see very commonly asked questions that stuff will get lumped into. But basically going to be, making little adjustments here and there to have episodes of Cup of Jones be very much focused almost entirely on Easy Allies and on news and updates that are coming to you and to issues concerning the business and issues concerning us, and hopefully something that somebody knew was like, oh, Easy Allies, let me check out the Cup of Jones thing. Not 3.5 hours. I'm not watching this. And be like, oh, 1.5 hours. And then okay, most of that was him talking about Patreon and video games and stuff. That was cool. Let me know what you want me to do with personal questions, as I mentioned. And our takeaways are, of course, we have lots of opinions about Hall of Greats and lots of points to make the next episode even better. The best Hall of Greats ever. What was this one? Hall of Greats 10, 12? Do another charity drive, which hopefully we'll have time to do before the year is out. Listen to the stream on our phone to check it beforehand, which seems easy. Obviously, lots of love for our video game fantasy draft league thing, which is a part of the podcast, a part of Easy Update, an integral part of Easy Allies. And if I'm not going to be making the promises, because these are all shows that I don't produce, but I would not be surprised if I would see it coming back sometime at the end of the year to look back and see how those boys do. I'm very curious to see how their scores wrap up. There it is, 1.5 hours. There's Cup of Jones, everybody. I know some of you also like the long Cup of Joneses. Yeah, again, it's like the rest of the stuff that's changing here at Easy Allies. Stuff is going to change that you like, and it's either going to go away or get longer or shorter or different or weird. And I apologize, but it's stuff that I will end this episode of Cup of Jones on 2 sentiments. One, I just heard her scuffing around. Sophie, here's the first sentiment. This is a dog. Her name is Sophie. All right. Sophie's excited about Phase 4. Aren't you excited? Nothing about Sophie's going to change in Phase 4. Sophie's going to keep on Sophieing. But she's excited about Phase 4. She's looking forward to it. Yeah. You're looking forward to being on the floor again. You're not a big fan of sitting up like this. Sophie will still be in the new Cup of Jones. She'll still be around. Just so you know, Sophie's a big deal. She's not going to change. She was a part of these meetings. She had her chance to voice her concerns about the business, and we took lots of Sophie's notes to heart. The other thing is this: I am excited about the future of Easy Allies. I'm pumped about Phase 4. I'm excited about how my shows are changing. I'm excited about how my responsibilities are shifting a little bit. And it's cool. I'm excited how it's going to evolve, but I'm also excited to see the guys excited about, stuff that they're working on. Not that they weren't excited about stuff they were working on before. You're taking a job that we dearly love and just making us love it more, and making it more practical in terms of what we're capable of doing, what makes sense for us to do, playing to our strengths, playing to stuff that we've seen that we've done for the last 3 years and we've gotten good at. And I know you might be getting butterflies and everybody might be freaking out about Phase 4. But the reason why it's called Phase 4, other than it's a fun Marvel play, and we did, launched and then did better stuff before E3 and then got the studio, so Phase 4. In order to make some changes that we wanted to at Easy Allies, we had to change other big things. And we were always talking about, regardless of dropping before 48K, regardless of me going on paternity leave, all the emotional stuff that happened at the beginning of the summer, post E3, being in the studio for so long. We're always talking about doing a survey. We're always talking about getting, advice directly from our audience. And then having, because it's tiring to have these really big, long meetings, because we have to have these big, long meetings on top of the jobs that we are already doing. And so it can be tiring after like hour 8 to be like, okay, Fiasconauts. So what are we doing with Fiasconauts? And try to keep the same amount of energy. But that attention was required in order to not only make changes that were probably long overdue at Easy Allies, but to do our best effort to make sure those changes were proportionate to everything else that was happening. And so I think a lot of times at Easy A, we have frankly botched communication of stuff that was changing. We've made changes, haven't really talked about why we were making those changes. We've addressed concerns. Hey, look, it's Koopa Troop. Hey, Troop, you're just in the next room. We make... God, see, I'm just thinking about my wife, and now I can't remember what I was talking about. You walking around? No, that's Sophie making noise. I seriously just completely lost it. Completely lost that ball. This was the thought that I had, and I dropped it on the floor. We basically had to take a big step away from everything. And look at everything and value everything at the same time, and kind of take the gloves off, which I think was a big deal, because every time we change something, even making changes to this, making changes to Cuppa Jones, making changes to the showcase over the years, is scary, because there's no way you can please everybody at the same time. And so it was good to know that whatever those voids were, whatever those empty spaces where we're like, people might be a little disappointed in that, or people might be a little upset that that's changing, or we don't know, or we're making this change and like we hope people like this new thing, or we hope people like this thing that we're going to do, but we're not sure. But we were able to fill up that reservoir of nervousness and uncertainty with our own passion and comfort, knowing that we at least are going to be really excited about the stuff that we are doing moving forward. And I think that speaking to our patrons, speaking to the people that are financially supporting us, before we talk about the changes that are coming to this Patreon, we want this Patreon to basically speak for itself, so that you come to us and that you can see what the value is. Like, okay, I see what these guys do. This isn't just a post GT. This isn't just these guys that previously wanted to get into a studio, now we don't know what they want. This isn't something that necessarily needs to survive doing one particular thing. We are going to do what we're best at. We're going to play to our strengths. We're going to do fun, new, exciting things we've been talking about for a long time. And as I've mentioned before, and I don't know how much we're talking about this tomorrow night, but man, there's a lot of fun things coming that we're not going to talk about tomorrow. There's a lot of fun ideas that we had at the meeting. There's a lot of fun creative things that the wheels are turning. Kind of like how we felt about Mysterious Monsters when we were first putting something like that together. It was like, oh, this is going to be fun, but we criticize the game industry as much as we like that Avengers game, that Avengers trailer that came out like 5 years before it should have. There's just, you can feel it when there's just some things. It's like, we're not ready to specifically talk about that stuff yet, but so many exciting things. So again, it's not, Phase 4 isn't just tomorrow night. Phase 4 is, moving on through the rest of 2019 and into 2020. So tomorrow we get to begin all sorts of fun stuff that we're going to be doing moving forward. And I'm so excited to do it. And I definitely want to end my long ramble talking about this with saying that we are so grateful to not only hopefully have your continued support at Easy Allies on this Patreon following all of the changes we're going to announce tomorrow, but the fact that we are where we are, that we've built up a business that's successful enough that can drop from 52K to 48K on Patreon, and we're still doing very well in other places. And we're still definitely able to support ourselves, have events like Easy Living, invest in things that we feel are important to invest in, and just have these jobs, be in the position that we are in to take a swing at creating this different form of EZA and seeing what you think of it. And if you want to support us, and obviously there's so many ways you can get back to us. I'm Brandon at easyallies.com. If you want to email me about things, you can DM me on Twitter. You can ask questions, as always, on Cup of Jones. The form that those responses take and how we process that stuff will change moving forward on the show and evolve just like everything else. But I'm so pumped. I'm so pumped about tomorrow. I'm excited to be on the podcast again. I'm excited to be on the group stream. I'm excited to talk about all of these fun changes. I'm excited for it not to be a big deal anymore. I think I talked about it too much because, again, it's the big deal is that more than one thing is changing, but a lot of stuff is staying the same. Don't be too worried. It's going to be fun, and we'll talk about it tomorrow. Thanks for watching, everybody. Cheers.